Have you ever sat at your own daughter's birthday party or a big family Sunday roast and felt like you were watching the whole thing through a thick pane of bulletproof glass? It is one of the strangest, most hollow feelings a man can experience. You've got a cold drink in your hand, a smile on your face, and you're nodding at all the right moments while your brother-in-law talks about his new office job or the aunties gossip about the neighbors. On the outside, you look perfectly fine. You're right there in the middle of the noise. But somewhere deep underneath that surface, there is this quiet, aching disconnection that you just cannot put into words. It feels like everyone else in the room got a memo about how to actually connect with people, but yours just never showed up in the post. You go home that night, climb into bed, and you feel more alone than you did when you were sitting in the cab of your Arctic in a dark lay-by on the M6. And the worst part of it all, you have absolutely no idea why. I've spent 20 years hauling 40-ton containers up and down this country, and if there is one thing I've learned, it's that there are two very different kinds of loneliness. There is the loneliness of the road, where it's just you and the radio for 10 hours at a stretch. But then there is the loneliness of the crowded room. That is the one that really does the damage to a bloke's head. It has nothing to do with how many people are around you, and it has nothing to do with whether those people actually like you. Most of the time, people think you're great. You're fine at conversation. You aren't awkward. You can hold a room and tell a few stories about the motorway to keep everyone entertained. But there is a massive difference between being around people and actually feeling seen by them. It's like being a ghost that can still speak, but nobody is actually looking you in the eye. If you've spent most of your life knowing exactly what that difference feels like, I want to explain something to you. Maybe nobody has ever put this into words for you before, but it's time someone did. What is actually happening inside the mind of a driver who feels lonely in a crowded room? Psychologists call it social disconnection. It is a proper term, and it has almost nothing to do with your social skills or how many mates you have on Facebook. It isn't about being an introvert or a shy wallflower. It is about a much deeper gap. It is the gap between surface connection and the kind of real, honest connection that your nervous system is actually wired to need. Most social interaction in this country runs on the surface. Small talk about the weather, shared jokes about the football, or familiar routines at the pub. For a lot of people, that is enough to fill their tank. But for some people, and you probably already know if you're one of them, that surface connection doesn't register the same way. Their brain isn't satisfied by it. It's like trying to fill up a 40-ton lorry with a watering can. Think of it like this. It's like eating a service station sandwich that looks perfect in the plastic packaging. It looks like food. It feels like food. But when you eat it, it has absolutely no nutritional value. You go through all the motions of eating, but somehow you're still starving. Your body is telling you that you are empty, even though your stomach is full of cardboard. That's what small talk feels like to someone who needs depth. Science shows us that genuine connection, the kind that actually reduces that heavy feeling of loneliness, requires something very specific. It requires feeling understood. Not just being heard, not just being included in the round of drinks, but actually feeling like the person opposite you sees the real version of you, the one that exists when the engine is off. And that kind of connection is rare. It's like finding a clean shower at a truck stop, nearly impossible. The people who need that deep connection most often spend their entire lives in rooms full of people and still end up going home empty. And here is the part that almost nobody ever talks about in the transport office or the canteen. The people who feel the loneliest in crowded rooms are usually the ones everyone else assumes are doing just fine. They are the warm ones. They are present. They ask good questions, the kind that make other people feel like the most interesting person in the world. They remember the little details about your kids or your holiday. They show up when they are needed. They are genuinely good at making other people feel seen. But the painful irony is that while they are busy making everyone around them feel understood, they are quietly waiting for someone to do the same for them. They are holding the door open for everyone else, but nobody is inviting them inside. Picture this. You're out on a long night with a group of mates after a week on the road. Everyone is talking, stories are flying, the energy is good. You are fully there, laughing and engaged. But at some point in the night, you go a little quiet, just for a moment. Not because anything went wrong, but because somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice says, "Does anyone here actually know me?" Not the version of you that shows up to the pub, the one with the tales from the Tarmac, but the real one, the one who sits in the cab at 3 in the morning wondering if he's just a ghost moving freight through the dark. That question doesn't come from a place of self-pity. It comes from a nervous system that is wired for depth, living in a world that mostly prefers to stay in the shallow end. It's a struggle that most blokes just bury under another pint or another shift. If you have felt this your whole life, I want you to hear something very clearly from me. You're not too much, you're not broken, you aren't some weirdo because small talk makes you feel like you're disappearing. You don't need to want less or feel less. You don't have to settle for connections that leave you feeling emptier than you were before you walked out the door. What you are feeling is real, and it is telling you something important. It isn't telling you what is wrong with you. It is telling you what you actually need to survive in this life. You need people who are willing to go deeper, yeah? You need people who ask the question after the question, the ones who stay in the conversation when it gets real and uncomfortable instead of steering it back to the safe ground of the weather or the football. Those people do exist, I promise you. Usually they are the ones standing a little bit quiet at the edge of the same crowded room. They are feeling exactly what you are feeling, and they are wondering the exact same thing. You are not alone in this, even when it feels like the loneliest thing in the entire world. In this job, we spend a lot of time in our own heads. We get used to the silence of the motorway, and it changes how we hear the world. My advice is this: stop trying to force yourself to be satisfied with the shallow stuff. If a conversation feels like cardboard, you don't have to keep chewing it. Seek out the people who actually see you. Even if it is just one person, one mate, one partner, one family member, that is worth more than 1,000 surface-level acquaintances at the depot. Don't settle for connections that don't feed your soul. You wouldn't drive a lorry with an empty tank, so don't try to live a life with an empty heart. If this one hit you somewhere deep, drop a like on the video, mate. It lets me know that the message is getting through the noise. Subscribe for more honest tales from the Tarmac, because we talk about the things here that other people like to ignore. And let me know in the comments, have you ever felt that glass wall standing between you and a room full of people? How do you find your way back to the real world after a long run? Stay safe out there. Look after your head as much as your lorry. Keep the shiny side up. Over and out.